Now, here are your hosts, Phillies Director of Fun and Games, John Brazer, and Mickey Morandini.
All right, welcome to the Bull Session live from Chickens and Pizza, Marlton, New Jersey. I'm John Brazer, Director of Fun and Games for the Fighting Phillies, joined by my co-host, Mickey Morandini. What's up, Mick?
Hi, Braze. That sounded just like Harry. How do you do it?
Well, my voice is kind of like
a little scratchy?
I think it's a lot of allergies, whatever. I've got the allergy voice. But joining us, Mickey, we have a third voice because we have the great Milt Thompson joining us today. We're honored to have you. What's up, Milt?
How you guys doing?
I'm good. Can you hear everybody? Can you hear that, Chris? All right. Well, we're going to have a great show today because we're going to talk about the 7-2 Fighting Phils coming off a great weekend, taking 2 or 3 from the Dodgers. But we're also going to go a little exploring into Milt's career because, Milt, I was going through your career, and it was some of the players you played with, some of the guys that coached you, right? Unbelievable. So I can't wait to talk about the Dale Murphys, the Hank Aarons, a lot of different guys in your career. And also I had you on our podcast, Backstage at Burgoyne and Brazier, and I found out the coolest thing about Milt Thompson. We'll get to that a little later. But, Mick, I'm sure you probably – can you guess what the coolest thing is about?
He
right.
knows.
Right. He's amphibious.
Yeah, amphibious.
Right. As Charles Shackelford said, right? I can go to the right and I can go to the left. I'm amphibious. Which, you know what? Let's just get right into that. You might as well, since you guessed it. That is a cool story. I know I think your father and your grandfather barnstormed through the Negro Leagues, correct?
Yes.
So your favorite player was Jackie Robinson.
Yes.
All right, take it from here. You're in Little League, and what position are you playing? And then take the story as it goes.
Well, I ran out to second base, and I fielded the first ball, and I threw it left-handed, and the coach was like, stop. Says, you can't play second or short. You can't turn double play properly. And I went home. I was very upset. I was upset. And then my dad just goes, hey, you really want to play second base? I said, yes, sir. Every day after he got off for work, I learned how to throw right-handed, and I played second base the next year.
I mean, that takes all kinds of determination, right, Mick? Like, if that's the case, even if Jack Robinson was my favorite player, and I said, all right, fine, I'm not going through that. I'm going to go play left field or something.
No, I've tried to throw left-handed, and, man, it's not pretty.
It doesn't work?
So I don't know. I mean, I don't know how many throws you had to
A
throw.
lot. I'm pretty stubborn to a fault.
I mean, probably 1,000 throws or something
easy.
like that, right?
So you're like
Easy.
7 years old at this point, 8
Yes.
years old, right?
Yes.
And you're just out in the backyard just throwing left-handed?
No, right-handed.
I mean, right-handed.
Yeah, like against the wall,
Yeah.
just have it
Well,
come back?
I played catch with my dad, and when my dad wasn't around, I threw tennis balls
Off the wall.
off the wall.
But I guess as a kid, that is the one advantage that when you're a kid, it's easier to learn a language, right? It's easier to learn how to skate. It's probably easier to learn hard things, right?
Oh, most definitely. Actually, and Mickey knows this too, it's easier to help kids become hitters when they're very young.
Right.
Instead of the bad habits they get before they get to us.
And the cool thing is you go into coaching, right? And did people know that? Like Mick, you were his teammate. Did you know that he was ambidextrous?
I'm sure I knew that
Yeah.
at some point. Yeah, I'm sure I knew that. I probably saw him throw from both hands in the outfield, but I didn't know the story behind it. That's a pretty cool story.
But it also helps now you're 2008 hitting coach, and all the coaches, whether you're the bullpen coach, the pitching coach, you all throw batting practice, right? So that's got to help for the most part, right? Doesn't everybody throw BP?
Most of them throw BP. I wasn't very good, either left or right. So I didn't throw. When you're the hitting coach, you're usually behind the turtle,
right.
Working with the hitters and stuff. But I did a lot in the cages and stuff with like, for instance, Jimmy and Abreu and Victorino and Worth. I did a lot of work in there with those guys.
Right. I still think that's incredible. Now
He does another neat thing. He does batting lessons with young kids, and he'll put 3 tennis balls in one hand, and he'll throw all 3, but the one in the middle goes down the middle of the plate, and then the other 2 kind of go off, and it forces the kids to concentrate on that one tennis ball.
Right.
But I don't know how you can control that middle ball to go down the middle.
It took me a while.
Pretty cool.
It took me a while to learn that, but it's a concentration thing for the kids.
Now, Don Mattingly is also ambidextrous. I keep wanting to say amphibious, right? So if I say is ambidextrous, right?
Yes. Actually, the last game of the season, we both threw with opposite hand. So
really?
I played right-handed. So the last game I threw left-handed.
Huh.
We were in Pirate City, as a matter of fact. The Yankees were there during instructional league. So the last game of the season, we both threw the opposite way.
Didn't he play some games at third base, Mattingly?
I think he did.
I think he played, but I don't know if he threw right-handed from third or left-handed.
Probably right-handed, I would think.
Maybe.
Right? Now, Ruben also is amphibious. So
He might be amphibious.
All right. Let's get back. Let's go into the season. Before we get into your career, which is a great career. Let's talk about the season. What have you seen so far? Obviously 7-2, coming off a very impressive, taking 2 out of 3 from the Dodgers. Very exciting series.
Very exciting. The first 2 ones in Washington, Colorado, and I said this would be a big series to find where these guys are right now. And, they got the best starting pitcher in baseball. So, and they came back,
The Dodgers, you're saying?
No.
Oh, the Phillies.
The Phillies have
okay.
the best
Because
pitching.
like you've talked to the experts, they're all saying the Dodgers have the number 1.
No, we have the better pitching. I can guarantee you that.
Okay. I believe
start
it too.
with Wheeler, and Luzardo is a stud.
Beast.
Too.
Yeah.
Know what I'm
Well,
saying?
then Sanchez is
Yes,
kind of the dark
yeah.
horse of the Cy Young. I know it's
Yeah.
very early, but
Yeah.
here's a guy that.
And plus we have Suarez coming too, so it's
Yeah.
not we're loaded.
And somebody else coming possibly in June, July.
Yes, definitely.
I think the Phillies starting 5 is the best in baseball, but I think the Dodgers are so deep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they've signed so many starting
Right.
pitchers because of injuries that they've had the last couple of years, so they're really deep. But, yeah, our starting pitching is we're deep this year, too. As you said, Suarez hasn't even pitched. We got Mr. Painter coming along at some
Right.
point once they take the diapers off him and,
Yeah.
and call him up. But, yeah.
Well, speaking of that, it looks like he's going to pitch down in the minors once a week. So he's going to pitch in a game once a week and then build up his arm strength, whatever, and then ease him into it. And then it looks like, who knows, maybe June, July, early August timetable.
Sounds great to me.
Yeah, we'll see.
So do you go to a 6-man rotation? Who do you fill him in for
I think
if we stay healthy?
I think if you stay healthy, in my opinion, he goes 6-man rotation because it just keeps these guys fresher, as we get to the – and it all depends on where we are in the standings, right?
Yeah.
It depends on a lot of things. But if you have the luxury of doing a 6-man rotation, then why wouldn't you?
I don't know. I'm not a fan of Wheeler throwing every 6th game when you got the best pitcher in baseball.
No. And he's a guy of habit, creature of habit. So.
And if you need Wheeler to go game 1 and game 4, he's going to get 3 days rest. So all of a sudden he's used to 6 days rest.
Right.
Good
point.
I don't know if they would do that. Maybe they might go split guys. Someone go the first 5 and someone go the last 4, something like that. But
also, you can keep him on his 5-day rotation.
Right.
All right. Now, speaking of the guy we haven't mentioned is a guy who had an unbelievable outing, and I'm so happy for him because he is a really good guy. You hate to see somebody go through the struggle, especially someone who's had success in the past. But Taijuan Walker, he's got his mom in the stands. Now, granted, it's against the Rockies, but it doesn't matter. It's a major league roster, and he threw a great game.
Yes, he did. I mean, for the most part, had a decent spring. He threw the ball a lot better. The velocity was up, and it's great to come out there and perform like that, especially, opening day there's a couple Hooters out there on him. But, yeah, that was good.
Well, I mean, and that's Philadelphia, right? It's good and bad. And, I know Taijuan Walker, he was kind of the talk radio was saying, oh, I can't believe he's the one that we have. There's nobody else we can get in there. But you know what? Again, Taijuan Walker, he's shown it before. He really struggled last year. And I got to tell you, it was just so good to see him.
Oh, yeah,
have that performance. So good for him. So I guess he's in there I know Suarez now is he's ramping up a little bit, right? He's going to pitch I think he already did a simulated game, didn't he?
I don't know, but I'm sure he's close.
He's either did or he's about to do a simulated game. And then he's probably, 2 weeks away, you think?
Well, he'll probably need 2 or 3 starts down there probably. So Walker will probably get a couple more times out there to prove what he can do.
Now, as a former hitting coach, I did see today that the Phillies, what was their big thing going into last season that they had to improve? They had to improve their chase rate, right?
Improve the chase rate and also better runners in scoring position contact.
Right. Do you know the Phillies have the number 1 right now chase rate in the major leagues with a 25% chase rate, which is number 1? So is that something that's learned, or is that something that just obviously it's a step in the right direction, but is that something that you can learn that? Like, can you?
Well, for me, and I'm sure Mickey will tell you, I was a zone hitter, and I hunted zones, and my strength was middle away, and that's what I hunted, you know, until I got 2 strikes on me. Then I had a 2-strike approach, but other than that, I'm looking for a ball away from me I can handle.
Mick?
Well, your swing's going to dictate your hit and miss rate too.
Right.
I mean, if you have a launch angle uppercut swing, you're going to miss a lot more pitches than you are if you have a level swing.
So
we have a lot of guys that do that.
So you think our guys are doing less of that?
I hope so, but it's just a short sample. I mean, it's 9 games.
9 games,
so
right.
let's talk about this May 1st
Yep.
and see where we're at. But it's encouraging for sure, putting the ball in play. We've still stranded a lot of guys on base early in the season, so still got some work to do there, but it's better.
But it's also encouraging to see we've been playing some small ball too, whereas, we just had a play where the third base, I think it was Marsh up, right? And then we scored from third. I think it was Schwarber from third, right?
He hit a little tapper.
It seems like we're playing a little more small ball as well, because we really haven't hit. I mean, Schwarber has 4 home runs. Harper's got 1, but it's not like we're banging home runs all over the place.
Well, the thing is, and that's what playoff ball is. You have to play small ball in the playoffs.
Right.
You're going to face 1 and 2 twice in a series, 7-game series. So these guys are pretty good, or they wouldn't be 1 and 2s.
Yeah.
So you have to figure out ways to score runs.
And we saw the last 2 years what trying to rely on the home run has gotten us.
Right.
It's gotten us to the
hit or miss,
playoffs,
right.
but you can't win in the playoffs relying on the home run. Just can't do it.
I tell you what, one of the best games I've seen in a long time was Game 1 Friday night against the Dodgers, JT Realmuto. Now, it's very easy to focus on a catcher's offensive playing. It's tough to gauge how he's calling pitches, right? Nobody can unless you're basically the pitcher catcher. But you also saw his arm on when he threw out 3 base runners that game. I mean, talk about a game one guy had on an impact, one guy had on a game.
He's one of the best defensive catchers in the game, calling games, receiving balls, and definitely throwing. So, when you can shut the other team down, that's big when you got a catcher who can nail guys, when they're trying to steal.
And the pitchers, I heard all the the post-game interviews, and a lot of, when we've had wins, and they say we never shake him off. Like that JT calls it, and they don't shake him off, which is kind of rare, right? A little bit.
Well, that's very important that the pitchers and the catcher are on the same page.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I got a chance to watch Chooch.
Yeah.
One of the best. He'd go over there and he sat down with the pitchers, and they had a game plan going into the inning before they even got back out there.
And we had Darren.
Yeah.
Right.
Didn't shake Darren off
No,
too much.
no,
If
you
you
didn't.
did shake
Well,
him
I was
off,
gonna say, that's more-
you did shake him
You
off.
better be
and
right.
You better be right. But Darren, if he called a pitch and it was the wrong pitch, he took the blame for it.
Yeah.
He would take the blame for it. He goes, "That's my fault. I called the wrong pitch."
I remember Metallica tells a story where, I think it's one of his first year in the major leagues, '94, and he shook Darren off, and Darren basically called the timeout right away and said, "Hey, man, right? Who's
Right, but if you think about it, it takes a lot of pressure off that pitcher.
Right.
You
He
know,
doesn't have
you're
to
relying
think.
on your catcher. He doesn't have to do too much thinking. Just see the sign and throw the pitch. And we were fairly young in '93 with our starting pitching with
Right.
Ben and Tommy. Kurt was still fairly young, and he did a tremendous job with those guys.
Now let's go through that one play, which was big in the 8th inning. You got Mookie Betts up, right, with 2 outs, and Ohtani tries to steal second base. Now, obviously, every rule in the book is saying you can't, with Mookie Betts a tying run at the home plate, you can't steal in that situation. Now, Ohtani, I guess from Ohtani's perspective, he had 57 steals last year. He's got a 94% steal rate, and he thinks he can steal that base. But still, you can't do that. You can't make that last out on the base pass with Mookie Betts up.
That's a bad decision.
Right? But what was going through Ohtani's head? That he doesn't care?
He didn't think he was going to get thrown out. That's
His
the thing.
strength his strength can overcome that strength.
Yes, definitely.
If that had been any other player on that team, he would have probably been scolded severely.
Yes.
Right. Well, imagine that was a Philly right in a key moment, right? I mean, talk radio would be just absolutely blasting no matter who it was.
Yep.
All right. Coming up in the show, Milt, let's talk about your career, because obviously it was an unbelievable career, and I want to talk about some of the players and coaches that allowed you to achieve the success you did. We'll go through that, and eventually we'll get to that 93 season that Mick and Milt can talk about. So you're listening to the Bull Session from Chickies and Pete's in Marlton, New Jersey.
Hi, it's Pete from Chickie and Pete's. Come taste and enjoy some featured items from our latest seasonal menu. We make magic with shellfish. Try our cluster of Dungeness crab legs served Chickie style for the entire table to share or make it a meal. And our shrimp po' boy sandwich satisfies with our one-of-a-kind fried shrimp. Pair any of these with a cocktail like bourbon cherry lemonade, or our Italian ice crush. Now that's flavor. Come taste and enjoy at Chickies and Pete's.
At Penn Community Bank, we're in the business of building thriving communities. That means breaking down the barriers to home ownership, supporting fair, affordable access to housing from Philadelphia to the Lehigh Valley, like our Home Opportunity Mortgage that empowers eligible borrowers with no minimum credit score, no down payment, access to grant programs, and so much more. Visit PennCommunityBank.com/home for more details. Penn Community Bank. Here we grow. Member FDIC. Equal housing lender. Account and feature terms, restrictions, and conditions apply.
A flawless occasion begins at the Capitol Grill. From the moment you step into the Capitol Grill, located in the heart of Center City, the experience is one of comfortable elegance. Whether you're looking to host a private affair, a perfect lunch stop, or dinner destination, start your occasion at the Capitol Grill today. Visit thecapitolgrill.com or call 215-545-9588. That's 215-545-9588 for the Capitol Grill, Center City.
If you're looking for a stylish and sophisticated fine dining experience, visit your Eddie V's Prime Seafood restaurant near King of Prussia. Eddie V's Seafood features an abundant selection of fine wines and curated cocktails to complement exquisite steaks and seafood made from the highest quality ingredients. In the V Lounge, sip on imaginative handcrafted cocktails with attitude while enjoying signature appetizers. Conveniently located between I-276 and I-76 near the King of Prussia Mall. Call them today, 610-337-7823 to schedule your night out for Eddie V's Prime Seafood.
We now return to Chickies and Pete's for the Bull Session. Once again, here are your hosts, Phillies Director of Fun and Games, John Brazer, and Mickey Morandini.
All right, we are back to the Bull Session live from Chickies and Pete's in Marlton, New Jersey. I'm John Brazer, joined by my co-host Mickey Morandini and our guest Milt Thompson. All right, Milt, let's go through the very beginning, okay? So as we talked about, you grew up in the D.C. area in Maryland, right?
Yes.
In Gaithersburg?
Yes, that's correct.
Right? Gaithersburg, basically a suburb of Washington, D.C. And then you went to Howard University.
Yes.
In D.C.
Yes.
At what point did you realize, was it college? Was it before you got recruited to go to Howard? At what point did you realize that you could actually make money playing baseball?
When he learned how to throw right-handed.
Right.
I was fortunate enough when I went to Howard to play with Chuck Hinton. He played with my dad in the Negro Leagues.
Yep.
And he was with the Cleveland Indians and the Washington Senators. So he was a major leaguer. So I once I got to college, it was so easy. I remember I was a leadoff hitter, so I would always take pitches, and I'd be 2-0 and I'd take pitches. He's like, "What are you doing?" He said, and Charlie says it great. It's a have-to count.
Yeah.
2-0-3-1. They got to come to you.
Right.
So why you keep taking those pitches? You got to be aggressive in those situations when you're looking for the right pitch.
But as you said, you're looking for a zone. Were you looking for the zone at that point?
No, not yet. Not yet. I was all over the place. I learned that later.
Mick, when did you realize, I've asked you this before, but when did you realize that you actually had the tools to make it as a major leaguer?
Probably third grade. No. I think in college, maybe my junior year when I started to see scouts coming out. At least I knew I'd be a professional ball player.
Right.
I didn't know I'd make it to the big leagues probably till my second year in the minor leagues when I really took off. So,
Milt, did you know that Mickey had a little run, not a run-in, but met Bobby Knight when he was in college?
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah.
I met him. I actually met him for the first time in person when I was with the Cubs, because he was a close friend of Tony La Russa.
Oh, you
so
never met him when you were in
I didn't meet him in college.
Oh, I thought you met him in Indiana.
So he's talking to Tony outside their dugout at the Cardinals game when he came into town. And I'm like, I got to go over and say something. So I shook his hand, and we talked for about 10 minutes.
Did he know your name?
He did.
Yeah. Okay.
He did. He said he was following my career, and he actually, at the end of the year, sent me a letter, handwritten letter, signed it, and just congratulated me on a great season and career. It was awesome.
That book, I read Season on the Brink, right? Season on the Brink. You read that book?
I have.
John Feinstein?
Yep.
Have you read that, Mick?
No.
Or Milt? That is a great
book.
You should read that book.
Okay.
It literally, John Feinstein follows Bobby Knight around. I forget what year it was that he followed him around. Steve Alford was on the team. Was that the game? Was that the year they won the championship?
87.
It was 87, right. So he follows, and goes through, what it was like And it's funny if you read it now, you're like, there's no way anybody could have gotten away with that in this day and age.
Oh, my God.
Right? Like, no way.
Like the chair going across the court and all
Right.
They just did. I just saw 30 for 30 on Bobby Knight, and they depicted him as horrible, a horrible person.
Right.
And they don't know all the great things he
Right,
did for students, and everybody graduated that came through that program.
Yeah.
They don't talk about that stuff. They just talk about the bad stuff.
Right, and the impact he had on people outside of basketball
Exactly.
that, for the rest of their lives. All right, so you were drafted in the 1979 draft, right, in the second round, early second round. That draft produced Andy Van Slyke, Tim Wallach, Steve Howe. You know who else was in that draft? Guys that didn't sign. There was 3 quarterbacks. Dan Marino, Kurt Warner, and John Elway.
Oh, wow.
Did you know that?
No, I did not.
I think they picked the right sport.
I think they picked the right. But also Von Hayes was picked in that draft after you. Oral Hershiser. It was Don Mattingly. So a lot of studs coming out of there. All right, so you came up through the Braves system, and I know you've talked about, some of the people, like it must have been cool as a young, going through the minor leagues, you had to have interactions with Hank Aaron, right?
Quite a bit. I mean, it was amazing, to just see this guy. He was one of the best hitters I've ever seen in my life, They talk about his home runs, but the guy hit 300 too.
Right.
So, he was amazing.
What would he say about today's swings? Would he be all right with that or no?
No, he would not.
No?
He would not be okay with that. I can remember my first year in the minors, and they said, you have to bunt for a hit every game. I'm like, okay. Why? Because, you take advantage of your speed and things like that. So that's what I did. But a funny thing happened there. You have to slow down to bunt to be a good bunter. They put the ball where you want it, and we had some bunters. Brett
Butler.
Brett Butler was there.
He was
Well,
really
and-
good.
Came after me, yeah.
Well, I was going to say, in the
Yeah.
Cardinal system, you had unbelievable hitters,
Yeah,
right?
oh,
You had
yeah,
Vince
yeah.
Coleman and
Yeah.
Willie McGee. And
Yeah. So I learned how to slow down to put the ball where I needed to bunting, and it helped me as a hitter too, the confidence.
You know what's funny? You also, I'm going to leap over, but I want to get back to the Braves. But I remember you said in our podcast when we had you that Mike Schmidt never hit home runs in batting practice.
No.
Right?
I hit the same group with him for 3 years. Never hit a home run in batting practice.
Because he was working on line drives.
He was working on swinging down, hitting hard ground balls or line drives during batting practice. And then in the game, he was unbelievable.
Because he figured that the velocity is going to be up by the
Yes,
pitcher.
yeah.
And so he lets we let the bat do the work. He has the same.
Backspin it.
Right.
These guys try to lift it instead of backspinning it. And that's the problem with missing a lot of balls when you're trying to lift it. It just doesn't work that way. It's funny, when I became the hitting coach, I always brought Smitty in for a week to really upset these players. Because he used to put a little tarp thing that came down in front of the cage, so every time you swung up, it hit the net. So
Right.
you couldn't tell where the ball was going. So they would get so mad, and I'm like, dude, it's batting practice.
Right.
Who cares?
So what would they? I mean, if you did that, let's say you and Schmidt are talking to the modern day hitter, not to keep picking on the modern day hitter, but with the uppercut swing they have, and I just remembered I would bring celebrities into the cage, and that's where I would get a feel for Milt's teaching when he would say chop down the ball, you're chopping wood, and then let the ball come out the other way. But now it's the exact opposite. It's basically right, isn't it?
Well, the thing is, it's how you're talking to the hitters now. Analytics says that more balls in the air go for hits than balls on the ground. Okay, so a line drive is in the air. So why aren't you telling these guys to hit line drives
Hit more line drive.
instead of trying to get the ball in the air? I mean, as a minor league hitting coordinator, I used to go into towns and I'd see teams put the pitcher screen behind the mound and tell them you got to hit the ball over the screen.
Right.
But that makes sense for a Kyle Schwarber or
Yeah.
Aaron Judge.
Yeah.
You don't want
Right.
them hitting the ball on the ground.
Yeah.
Right.
But for someone like me and Milt, if we hit the ball in the air, you know what happens.
Right.
It gets caught.
Right.
So we got to hit the ball on the ground, especially on our turf days.
Yes.
You
Right.
know, and use your speed. That's why I get a little upset with Trey Turner a lot of times because he hits the ball in the air so much. He doesn't use his speed enough.
Right.
He should be a 320 hitter just based on his speed. He doesn't bunt. He doesn't do any of those little things, and he's the fastest guy on the team.
Well, he did win a batting title, didn't he?
Turner did?
Yeah.
Yeah, he did.
When did he do that?
When the Nationals.
Yes.
He must have hit a lot of balls on the ground that year.
right, let's go back to Atlanta too. Like you had a lot of guys. You had some kind of legends that Ralph Garr, right? Cleat Boyer, some other guys that kind of
Smokey Burgess.
Oh
my
right?
God. Yes. These guys were Luke Appling. One of my favorites.
Wow.
Luke Appling was one of my favorites. He'd sit there on the bench, tobacco in, and he was older. I guess he was like in his 70s almost, and he'd spit and go right on the front of his jersey. He didn't care, and he'd tell stories about how if an umpire called a bad pitch on him, he said the next pitch would come in and he'd spit tobacco on it and it sprayed the umpire to catch it. I used to love this guy, man. All the stories he had, but yeah, it was great coming through that organization. We had some guys, man, who really knew how to play the game and taught us how to respect it.
Was Ken Griffey Sr. ever around?
Oh, I played with him. He was my teammate in the big leagues.
Is that right?
When I got to the big leagues.
He was just at our game yesterday.
Yeah.
Oh, he came to some playoffs.
He comes to a lot of games.
Yes.
He lives locally. A legend.
I was lucky. You had Griffey. When I got up to the big leagues, it was Griffey Sr., Bob Watson, Chris Chambliss.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
How about that?
Yeah.
Guys to teach you how to play the game. That was pretty good.
All right. So then, fortunately for the Phillies, you were 2 years in Atlanta, and then the Braves traded you along with Bedrock to the Phillies for Ozzie Virgil and Pete Smith. What was it like coming to Philadelphia at that point?
It was a great experience. I mean, I got an opportunity to be an everyday player. When I first came up in '84, I played every day, hit 300. Then I was the last guy caught off the team in '85 because I had options left. And then when I came up in July of '85, all I did is pinch hit.
All right. And that was Felsky was your manager?
Felsky was my manager.
And then Lee Illia, I know, towards the end.
Yes.
And that was Von Hayes, Sammy, right? Glenn Wilson.
Yeah. It was really cool for me because Sammy was leading off. I would bat second. Von third, Smitty, Glenn Wilson, and we had Parrish too.
Yeah, Lance Parrish.
Yes. So I was around a great group of guys who I kind of just connected with Smitty. That's how Smitty was. People give Smitty a hard time, but I learned a lot from him. We talked a lot.
Now, Bedrock, do you ever hear Video Dan? Video Dan Stevenson was our longtime video guy, and he's got the greatest stories. He has stories about everybody. And the one story he told about Bedrock is that I guess Lee Illia was upset that too many guys, the pitchers, were hanging out like in the locker room, like during games, not in the bullpen or not in the dugout. And so he told Video, and they'd hang out in Video's room, right, in the video room, basically because he had a couch there, and they'd watch TV and they'd eat French fries, whatever. And he said, I guess they were on a losing streak. He said, Video, if anybody comes in your room, you lock that door. If I find out that any player was in your room during the game, I'm going to get you fired, right? So sure enough, the first game that happened, Bedrock, fourth inning, knock on the door, and Video said, I can't let you in, Bedrock. He's like, what do you mean? Lee Illia said you're not allowed in. What do you mean? I'm telling you, I can't let you in or I'm fired. All right, fine. So he comes back 15 minutes later. Video's like, I guess doing whatever video work. All of a sudden, crash. He literally got an axe, and he literally axed the door like right out of The Shining, and did it until there was a crack, and then he basically did. Here's Bedrock, like in the middle of he literally chopped the door down. Have you heard that story?
I have not.
No.
Yeah. So, colorful character there.
Well, I got a good story about Lee in the starting pitch and about the guys being in the clubhouse. Of course, I was waiting to pinch hit or whatever, so about the fifth inning, I go up and I start trying to get loose. And there's Shane Riley and Kevin Gross taped up ball playing baseball in the locker room. And for some reason, Lee came up. I don't know if he wanted to get a cigarette or something, and he just lost his mind.
And he had a temper too, right?
Oh, my God, he lost his mind. Unbelievable. And then after the game, we lost, and he just tore his office up, and he's screaming at us and yelling at us. And I'm like, we didn't do anything. Why is he screaming at all of us? But, yeah.
Well, he's got one of the great rants of all time, right?
Yeah.
That's recorded?
Chicago, yeah.
In Chicago, yeah. All right. We got a lot of – speaking of that, I want to get to the 93 season because there is a famous wiffle ball story during that season involving John Kruk, right, in the Clubhouse Kids. Remember that one?
Yeah, I think.
All right, well, I'll remind you. All right, we'll talk about that. We'll also talk about your time in the Cardinals, then back to the Phillies. We're with our guest, Milt Thompson. You're listening to the Bull Session from Chickies and Pete's in Marlton, New Jersey.
Hi, it's Pete from Chicky Pete's. Our selection of seasonal cocktails make any meal better. Come sip and enjoy our bourbon cherry lemonade made with small batch bourbon, muddled fruits, and refreshing juices. What a winner! Is fruit your flavor? Try a watermelon shandy cocktail. A smoky grapefruit with mezcal and fresh lime. Or sip and enjoy a very berry martini. All pair perfectly with our seasonal menu features. Come sip and enjoy at Chickies and Pete's.
Think banking hasn't changed? Think again. At Penn Community Bank, we've been helping communities thrive for 150 years. From our nationally recognized Access Checking that offers the peace of mind of no overdrafts, to student and free checking plus options with perks that will make you wonder what you did without them. Like early direct deposit, overdraft grace, and Zelle. Learn more at PennCommunityBank.com/products. Penn Community Bank. Here we grow. Account and feature terms, restrictions, and conditions apply. Ask for full details. Member FDIC.
A flawless occasion begins at the Capitol Grill. From the moment you step into the Capitol Grill, located in the heart of Center City, the experience is one of comfortable elegance. Whether you're looking to host a private affair, a perfect lunch stop, or dinner destination, start your occasion at the Capitol Grill today. Visit thecapitolgrill.com or call 215-545-9588. That's 215-545-9588 for the Capitol Grill, Center City.
If you're looking for a stylish and sophisticated fine dining experience, visit your Eddie V's Prime Seafood restaurant near King of Prussia. Eddie V's Seafood features an abundant selection of fine wines and curated cocktails to complement exquisite steaks and seafood made from the highest quality ingredients. In the V Lounge, sip on imaginative handcrafted cocktails with attitude while enjoying signature appetizers. Conveniently located between I-276 and I-76 near the King of Prussia Mall. Call them today, 610-337-7823 to schedule your night out for Eddie V's Prime Seafood.
We now return to Chickies and Pete's for the Bull Session. Once again, here are your hosts, Phillies Director of Fun and Games, John Brazer, and Mickey Morandini.
All right, we are back at the Bull Session live from Chickies and Pete's in Marlton, New Jersey. I'm John Brazer, joined by my co-host, Mickey Morandini. You got to do Harry Cowles when you say your name, right?
Everybody does.
And Milt Thompson. So, Milt, we took you through Atlanta. Then you came to the Phillies, but then you get traded. You got traded to the Cardinals.
Oh yeah.
Right. Now I think you spent your most time. Well, I guess years combined to be the Phillies, right?
Yes.
But you spent your most time on a continuous basis with the Cardinals.
Yeah.
And that was, we had talked about some of the players you played with.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, you played under Whitey Herzog.
Yes, I love
so
Whitey.
That must have been interesting.
Oh yeah.
And then you also played with Ozzie, and again Willie McGee and Ray Langford, right? That was a good outfit, you guys out that way.
Yeah, pretty good. First, when I first got over there, they had Vince, Willie, and Bernansky.
Right.
So I got traded over there. It's funny. Whitey was great because I always played a lot. Guys got days off, and but when I first got there, he goes, I want you to work out at third base. That didn't work very well.
Right.
With George Kissel every morning.
You should have said, "Ken, I'm left-handed."
Probably would have worked, yeah.
Right. Well, you actually, I think with St. Louis, you had your highest batting average in 1991. You hit .307.
Yes.
Right? And then you had free agency, which I guess, you had free agency, then you elected to return to the Phillies.
Yes.
And I think it was, if I remember correctly, it was between the Phillies and Montreal.
Yes.
And you chose Phillies because obviously your comfort level with the team, not knowing that you're about to go to the World Series.
No doubt,
year.
no doubt.
Right?
That was a very good choice.
All right, so then you joined the Phillies, and we talked a lot to guys from the '93 team, and I always think that the big moment of that team, you came off last place in NL East, but there was a spring training game against St. Louis. We'll talk about what Dave Hollins told the pitchers, and then talk about the brawl that ensued against your old team.
Well,
Mick, you can chime in too.
Well, Dave said, "Look, guys, I'm tired of getting hit." Well, it's
but
Mikey.
he didn't say it nicely.
Yes, I can imagine.
If I get hit again and we don't retaliate, I'm coming after you.
Right.
Basically, it's what he said. So we're at Allang over in St. Pete.
Yeah.
And sure enough, they Donovan Osborne hit him. And Tommy was pitching at the time, and Tommy says he looked at Darren, and they went, okay.
Right.
And it worked out great that Donovan Osborne was the first hitter.
Right.
That
Perfect.
inning. And Tommy nailed him.
Really good.
Yes.
Well,
so good that he didn't come back again to pitch anymore that day.
And it's good to have Tommy the size of Tommy Green out there too, right? But there was some brawls going on in that game, right, in spring training.
Well, they threw up and in on, or hit Ricky, I think.
Yeah, they
up
hit
high.
Ricky Jordan.
And Ricky charged.
Yes.
And then everything.
Yeah, that's
place.
when the brawl took place.
But do you think that could say galvanize the team that basically said, if you're going to look back at one moment that said what set that team in the right direction, could that be like a kind of flashpoint?
It was even before that, and when we first got to spring training, you could see, first of all, we had an unselfish team. We got 3 platoons.
Yeah.
I mean, we all just knew our jobs and we worked together. I think that was the whole key,
Yeah, so you and
Pagosi goes here. This is our plan. Lee Thomas put all this together, and this is our plan.
You and Inky, you had Wes and Izzy, and you had Mickey and Mariano.
Yeah, and if you put our numbers together in each position, unbelievable.
Pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, you guys led the league in so many categories. Home runs not being one of them, but it was on-base percentage, it was hits, it was walks.
Yeah.
I mean, I just remember as a fan, because I wasn't with the Phillies at that point, that you guys just, every inning that you put pressure on the pitcher. The pitcher, I felt like the starting pitcher after 3 innings was already at 50-plus pitches, right?
We had 4 guys with 100 walks that season.
Yeah.
You don't see that too often.
No, not at all. And then, so that the season got off to a great start, right? And then, Milt, you had an unbelievable game. Let's go back to that game. April 29th, 1993. You're playing against the Padres. It's at Jack Murphy Stadium. You'd already gone 3 for 4 at the plate with 2 RBI, right? And then with the game on the line, Phil's ahead 5-3, bottom of the 8th, 2 outs. Pirates had the bases loaded. Bob Guerin's to the plate. Dave West on the mound. What happened?
Well, in that situation, we're playing no doubles in the outfield because we had a 2-run lead and it was 2 outs. And fortunately, I got back deep to be able to, because when you're playing no doubles, no ball should fall in the field of play. So he hit the ball, and I got a great jump on it, and just happened to jump up at the right time, and the ball went in the glove. It's something that you dream of doing. I mean, it was incredible.
So when you make a play like that, or Mick, when you did your unassisted triple play, I mean, are you thinking more like, whew, thankfully I got that or did that, or are you in the moment at that point, or is it more you realize
it's the excitement of the
magnitude
play.
of it,
it's
like
the
after
excitement
you've
of
done
the play. After I caught that ball, I was like so excited, and
was that when
Lenny came over and started pounding on my back
all the way to the dugout?
Yeah, so it was like incredible, man. It was just like an unbelievable feeling. Like, did this just happen?
Right. I mean, what a season that was. I mean, it's so much fun to watch as a fan. I can't imagine what it was like for you guys. And I think you had the perfect catcher, right? That was kind of the coach on the field. You had the perfect manager that was Fregosi, that allowed the Dutch and everybody for you guys to police yourselves as opposed to being heavy-handed, right? It was just kind of and you had a perfect mix of veterans, and you also had some young players coming in, which you need.
Yeah. Well, you look at, after I made that play that night, the next day, Mitch loads the bases up in L.A., and he makes an unbelievable dive and catch and doubles up, and that's the game. We had the bases loaded in that game.
We won some unbelievable ways. Donkey hitting the grand slam off Lee Smith when the Cardinals were making a run at us.
Yeah.
We played a game against the Giants. Brian, was it Hickerson?
Hickerson. Remember West
They're
Chamberlain?
up 7-0. They're up 7-0. West Chamberlain hits an absolute P-Rod right back at him, and he just, saves his life and catches it. And he looks in our dugout and slams the ball down. We came back and won 8-7.
Yeah.
I mean, we won all kind of different ways.
Yeah, it's just a fun team to watch. And again, the personalities on that team. I mean, you guys are not only doing it on the field, but I think that literally is more. That team was more beloved than some of the teams that won the World Series.
No question.
Right? I mean, not taking anything away from the 80 team or the 08 team, but everyone fell in love with that. You guys, with the macho row and the mullets and the John Kruk, going on.
Well, and the other thing was nobody expected us to win.
Yes.
Right.
With the 80 team and the 08 team, they were really good and were supposed to win. In 93, we were picked to come in last place.
Right.
And I think that had a big big part in playing that because all of a sudden, we went from 30,000 to 40,000 fans, 50,000. I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah.
And then we had the game at 4:27 a.m. where everybody had left and the bars closed up and everybody came back in.
And Mitch Williams gets a game-winning hit at 4:47 a.m.
Yes.
Yeah, that was crazy. And then, obviously, when you guys clinched too, I always see that. Who was it? Mill? Were you the one that stumbled? Someone tripped out of the dugout.
Oh no, that was Wes.
That was Wes.
Oh, that was Wes. Yeah.
Like I can still picture that, right? When they clinched, and then what a great season, unbelievable. All right, so then you were traded by Philadelphia to the Astros for Tom Edens, and you elected to re-sign with Houston the next year as well, and then the Dodgers. But even like some of the players you played with Bagwell and Biggio in their prime.
Unbelievable. Yes.
Right? And you had Joe Torre twice as a manager.
Yes.
What was that like playing under Joe Torre?
Really cool. Joe's a really quiet general. He doesn't say a whole lot. He definitely doesn't do any yelling.
Right.
So it was different playing under him. He's a very controlled guy. He's like me. He's stubborn to a fault because Ted Turner wanted him to get rid of Bob Gibson as his hitting coach, and he refused to, and then he fired Joe because he wouldn't get rid of him. And then I got Joe again in St. Louis. Yeah,
and some of the managers, check this out, ready, Mick? And I'm sure you've had some. So here's your managers: Felsky, Lee Elia, Whitey Herzog. You had Red's Schoendist, right?
Red Schoendist.
Schoendist. What did I say? Schoendist?
Yeah.
Schoendist. Joe Torre, Fregosi, Terry Collins. You had Tommy Lasorda, right? And you had Don Baylor. I guess Bill Russell a little bit too.
Yes.
Lasorda had a heart attack when you were playing there, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And then he had to step aside, and Bill Russell came in. What was it like playing for Lasorda?
Oh my God! You talk about a spread everywhere you went.
Right.
Oh my God! You walk in the clubhouse, he's like, "Milt, come on in here." You sit down, and it's unbelievable.
Plus, he's got stories.
He hated coming to Philadelphia.
Well, I'm sure he did because of the Fanatic.
Yes. He absolutely hated coming to Philadelphia.
My favorite story is when he come to Philadelphia. Obviously, Dave Raymond, the best friend of the Fanatic. Do you know it was? Who was it? Who was the infielder? The infielder, Steve
Sachs.
Steve Sachs would get Lasorda's backup jersey and would knock on the Fanatic's door and say, "Here, you didn't get this from me. Here you go." And he'd throw the jersey into the room, and then obviously Dave Raymond, the best friend of the Fanatic, would put the jersey over a dummy, then drag the dummy from the four-wheeler, right? And Lasorda would go completely bonkers.
Oh my God.
And then supposedly Lasorda would chew out the team, like, "Who the hell gave the and it came out later with Steve Sachs.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's admitting that now. Maybe he is. But also, Tommy Lasorda also has a story. It's like, I've been around him a couple times, and he just told one story after the other.
Oh, yeah.
That was one of the great storytellers of all time.
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
All right, let's go to break right now. But when we come back, let's get into the time 2008. We'll talk about the 2008 season when you're the hitting coach, and I want to get some stories about another legendary manager that you didn't play under, but you coached under. One of our favorites, Charlie Manuel. We'll talk about that. We're with our guest, Milt Thompson. You're listening to Bull Session from Chickies and Pete's in Marlton, New Jersey.
Hi, it's Pete from Chicky and Pete's. Come taste and enjoy some features from our latest seasonal menu. Try our Southern California chicken sandwich, our delicious Southern glazed cutlet with avocado and jalapeno pineapple salsa, and our seafood pasta with our signature crab, mouth-watering shrimp, and penne pasta with our world-famous red or Sicilian sauce. Pair it with a seasonal cocktail like our very, very cherry martini or our watermelon shandy cocktail. Taste and enjoy at Chickies and Pete's.
At Penn Community Bank, we're in the business of building thriving communities. That means breaking down the barriers to home ownership, supporting fair, affordable access to housing from Philadelphia to the Lehigh Valley, like our Home Opportunity Mortgage that empowers eligible borrowers with no minimum credit score, no down payment, access to grant programs, and so much more. Visit PennCommunityBank.com/home for more details. Penn Community Bank. Here we grow. Member FDIC. Equal housing lender. Account and feature terms, restrictions, and conditions apply.
A flawless occasion begins at the Capitol Grill. From the moment you step into the Capitol Grill, located in the heart of Center City, the experience is one of comfortable elegance. Whether you're looking to host a private affair, a perfect lunch stop, or dinner destination, start your occasion at the Capitol Grill today. Visit thecapitolgrill.com or call 215-545-9588. That's 215-545-9588 for the Capitol Grill, Center City.
If you're looking for a stylish and sophisticated fine dining experience, visit your Eddie V's Prime Seafood restaurant near King of Prussia. Eddie V's Seafood features an abundant selection of fine wines and curated cocktails to complement exquisite steaks and seafood made from the highest quality ingredients. In the V Lounge, sip on imaginative handcrafted cocktails with attitude while enjoying signature appetizers. Conveniently located between I-276 and I-76 near the King of Prussia Mall. Call them today, 610-337-7823 to schedule your night out for Eddie V's Prime Seafood.
We now return to Chickies and Pete's for the Bull Session. Once again, here are your hosts, Phillies Director of Fun and Games, John Brazer, and Mickey Morandini.
All right, we are back to the Bull Session live from Chickies and Pete's in Marlton, New Jersey. I'm John Brazer, joined by my co-host, Mickey Morandini, and our guest, Milt Thompson. I can't say it without Harry Cowles. All right, before we get into baseball, Florida is playing Houston tonight. Florida is 1.5-point underdogs. I know you guys are both sports fans. So who are you going with? You going with Florida or are you going with Houston, Mick?
I think it's a storybook season for the Houston Cougars, so I'm going Houston.
So you're going with that because Sampson was a coach at Indiana.
He was for 1 year, and I really liked him, but it didn't work out for whatever reason.
I want him to get the first win.
Yeah.
Even though his Phi Slamma Jamma beat my UVA Cavaliers my first year in college in 1984.
And I like the way they play. They're gritty. They're tough. They play good, solid basketball. I like that.
And a great comeback against Duke.
Yeah.
I could not believe that. It was unbelievable.
I watched that.
Way.
I only caught the last 7 minutes of the game, and it was the greatest 7 minutes because they were up by 14, I think, and then Houston just came storming back.
Yeah, I got to give it to Houston, too.
Yeah.
they're a very gritty team, man. I was like, there's no way, they were going to come back and win that game.
Their defense is unbelievable, unbelievable. They play old-school defense, which is good. All right, so we talked about, Milt, so your career, playing career finishes, and then you get into coaching pretty much right away, right?
Yeah.
But you worked your way through some minor league systems?
Oh, yeah. Right after my season, I went over with it was Tampa Bay Devil Rays at the time.
Yeah.
And then the following year, I wanted to be closer to home, so I met with the Phillies and got the job as a hitting coach in Reading.
Okay, and then you eventually progressed up to the hitting coach under Charlie Manuel. And what was that like? I mean, Charlie obviously is a hitting guru, but I imagine he gave you the trust to basically not. Charlie doesn't seem the type that would interfere, right? Let you do your thing.
Well, it was amazing because when I was roving, I was doing outfield base running for the Phillies, and at that time he was an advisor to the GM, and he was always down in the minor leagues, so we were always together. We were always talking hitting and stuff, So he knew that we were pretty much on the same page the way we were thinking. So when he got the job, he gave me a chance to interview for the job.
And then obviously, so that was, what year was that when he first took that? Was that
2005?
2005.
Yes.
And then, but you're now seeing, we obviously got Tomey, to kind of help along. Then you get young guys in Utley and Rollins and Howard, and you're seeing basically the foundation.
Oh yeah.
Foundation of what made that 2008 season. Talk about some of those guys as a hitting coach. Working with Ryan and Jimmy and Chase.
Well, I was very fortunate. First you have to get their trust.
Yeah.
And once you have their trust, it's pretty easy. Ryan, his whole thing was, I told him, your strength is left center, and I think the shift really messed his mind up because once they started shifting on him, he started thinking more that they were going to pound him inside.
Right.
And he kind of went away from what his strength was. And just knowing your guys, like for instance, when I first started there, it was Jimmy and Bobby Abreu, and they're definitely not going to get there. If stretch is 3:45, they're going to get there 3:42. I don't know how they got dressed that fast and got on the field. But the thing was, after batting practice, we spent a half hour, 45 minutes getting them prepared for the game. And then you got Utley, who's there 2-3 hours before.
And he spent a lot of time in the video room.
video room and hitting off the tee.
Right.
And, you know, when you talk about those guys, Utley was incredible to me because he wouldn't swing at the first pitch. And pitchers were still afraid to throw a strike. That's how amazing this kid was. You know, he had all the talent in the world. Jimmy, swagger. He's a guy that, you know, you want at the plate with the game on the line because nothing phases him. And then, of course, Rhino. When Rhino's hot, he'll carry a whole team. You had Victorino.
Yeah.
You had Worth. You had Chooch.
We had Pat Burrell. And you compared, in our podcast, you compared Pat Burrell in his younger days to Dale Murphy.
That is exactly right.
Who used the opposite side of the field.
Oh, man, when I saw Pat in the minors, man, he drove balls to right center. Unbelievable. You know, he's just like Frank Thomas and some of those guys like that. And I think he got in his head a little bit about you need to pull the ball, you know, and then once you change who you are, it's hard to get back.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Once you go away from what your strength is, and he tried to be a pull hitter, and it just didn't work for him. But he was still a great player. You know what I'm saying? Right.
And then you mentioned Worth, and Worth, you know, Worth is somewhat of an afterthought. Not an afterthought because he was obviously a key part of that team, but the guys compared to the guys you'd mentioned, but Worth was a super valuable part of that team. Right?
He's an unbelievable athlete.
Unbelievable athlete, right. The genes that he has.
He was signed as a catcher.
Right.
You know, with Baltimore.
6'5" catcher.
Yeah, really. And, you know, his mom was an unbelievable athlete.
Track.
His uncle was in the big league. So, you know, yeah, he's something special. And for him, he saw a lot of pitches, too. You know, I think he's one of the guys that had more pitches seen than anybody, you know, in baseball at that time. And he was very talented. When he stayed up tall and used his leverage, he was pretty exciting.
I saw him in spring training, and Mick, you know what he does right now, right?
I do not know.
You don't know?
Oh, it's horse racing.
It's horse racing.
That's right. He had a horse that was in the Kentucky Derby.
Right? And he's got he won the Belmont, I think, or won the Preakness.
Yeah.
One of the. He didn't win the Kentucky Derby. Won either the Preakness or the Belmont.
Yeah.
But when I saw him in spring training, his horse needed to win the next Saturday or become first or second, Flying Mohawk, and it qualified. I don't know if it finished first or second, but so in this year's Derby, which is coming up first weekend of May, I think, you're going to see Flying Mohawk. So maybe we'll see him in the winner's circle.
Well, we got to check and see what outfit he's going to have on this year.
Right, right, because he had the hat, right? He had the pretty interesting. So I mean, working with those guys, I mean, not just that, but just under Charlie and just that season too was just a magical season where a little different from '93. Obviously, I think we flamed out in the playoffs in 2007 against the Rockies, but then it's almost like they needed that loss to basically propel them forward the next year.
That was incredible because, you know, we finally get into the playoffs and they were all excited, you know, partying and stuff, and Colorado came in and just steamboated us. You know what I mean? And they had that whole off season to go, you know what? We got to get there and finish the job. And they were on a mission from day one in spring training. You can see these guys, they're like, you know, we know we're good. We just got to go out there and go play and get into the playoffs and find a way to win. Just watching those guys every single day, you can see they were on a mission. And then we get in the playoffs and we didn't lose a home game.
Yeah. Now talk about that for everybody. It was the first game, or the game 5, right, was rained out.
Yeah.
And then there was a day and a half where we were kind of sitting around, right?
Yeah.
Now, what were you doing?
Well, we were working out in the cage and stuff, and I had them all in the cage one day, and I'm like, what can I say to these guys to get them to understand the gravity of what this is to become world champions? So I said, okay, guys, come in the cage for a minute. I want to talk to you. I said, which one of you guys wants to be the MVP? And they all looked at me. I said, we can be world champions. Just do your job. That's all. Just do your job. Do what you're capable of doing, you know? Just like Mick said, I'm not a home run hitter.
Yeah.
There's no sense in me trying to be a home run hitter. It's not going to accomplish anything.
Just be yourself.
Yes.
What's Charlie say? Charlie's phrase is?
He says, stay back and get a big contract.
Yeah. That too.
Yes.
But he has that know thyself.
Yes. Know thyself. And he said, especially when you get in those half 2 counts, man, you got to do some damage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mick, what were you doing during that day and a half?
waiting for the game to be played. But I was home in Indiana just waiting like everybody else.
You think you were more nervous than Milt, or he had something to do with it?
I don't think I was more nervous, but that is the hard part is waiting.
Yeah.
I hated rain delays.
Yeah, waiting is the hardest part. Once the game gets started or the pregame stuff then you're ready to go. But waiting, it gets you, man.
All right, so if I remember correctly, when we came back for part 2, right, there was a guy on second, right?
Yeah.
And then because Burrell did Burrell hit the? Did Burrell already get?
No, Burrell. Bruntley pinch ran for Burrell, and then Bruntley was at third base.
Right.
And then Chooch hit the little chopper that dribbled down there, and Bruntley scored the winning run.
And I thought Jeff Jenkins. Didn't Jenkins have a big hit in there too?
Yeah, I think he got a hit to get Bruntley to third because Bruntley ran for Burrell once.
Right.
Once he got on, because usually we put him out in the outfield late in the game for defensive purposes.
That was one of the craziest games because, again, it's a shortened game with huge impact.
Yes.
Right? And the fans were already, on their feet like from the beginning. It was the.
I can't believe we played as long as we did before they stopped that game. It was a river out there at shortstop in the infield.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it could have been called obviously very easily.
Yeah.
Right? But interesting. All right, so let's talk about what you guys are doing now because both of you guys are the ambassadors for the team. In fact, you're going to be here tomorrow at Citizens Bank Park with Bill Giles Classic, right? Some college games.
Yes.
But talk about what both of you guys do because you obviously represent the organization.
Well, we do the same thing. We go out into the community. We visit schools and hospitals and just do a bunch of things out in the community. We also come to the ballpark and visit suites, mingle with fans, sponsors. We probably do 130, 140 appearances a year for the Phillies. We get to play in some charity golf tournaments. It's a wide range of things that we do. As you said, we're the face of the organization. We do it with Dickie Knowles. He's come on board here the last year.
Scott Palmer too, right?
And Scott's more of the MC type of ambassador, but we thoroughly enjoy it. We have a blast doing it. It's a great job. We meet so many great people, and hopefully we can continue to do it for a long time.
And you guys both come down to fantasy camp, which is in January, which is always fun. Right.
Well, he's the commish.
He's the commish.
He gets a great job,
You like being the commissioner, Mike?
I do, and you know what makes it fun is these guys. The legends that come down, they're very receptive of what we do. I ask them to do commercials or go mingle with a player, and they're all receptive of doing that. That makes my job easy, but if you're ever interested in coming down to fantasy camp, anybody that's listening to this, it's a fantastic time. We have guys that have come back for literally 20 years in a row. It's crazy.
All right, well, I appreciate it, and that wraps up this week's Bull Session. I'd like to thank my co-host, Mickey Morandini, our guest today, Milt Thompson, back in the studio, Gus Barber, our on-site engineer, Chris Ermer. Thanks also to Pete Cherokee and the great staff here at Chickies and Pete's in Marlton, New Jersey. We'll be back next Monday at noon at Chickies and Pete's in South Philly with special guest Brandon Duckworth. Have a great week, and as the late, great Harry the K says,
out of here.
You're listening to 1490 WBCB and on your FM dial at 107.3 W297CL Levittown.
Hot hit.